business is your business. It's all up in my lady business with me, Mary Nisi. Here we are today with the force of nature that is Dr. Gertrude Lyons, who is a coach and educator in women's leadership development, parenting, and relationship satisfaction. As the founder of Rewrite the Mother Code, there's no way to just say that and not have to get follow-up
Right.
questions. She inspires women to choose their own personal transformations and has spent the last 21 years empowering individuals, couples, parents, and families to realize meaningful, successful lives. And then there's a lot of
Lots of
other things she does, but I just want to get right into it. So I'm going to project my own personal narrative onto you, but I'm
Sure.
assuming Rewrite the Mother Code is probably some kind of reaction to your own mother, the way you were parented.
Yes. So the simple answer to that is yes. We're wired from our childhoods, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we then take that into everything we do, but, with the work I do, into our own mothering. And decisions that we make consciously and unconsciously are so impacted by our own mothering that if you want to bring a certain level of consciousness, awareness, and sovereignty and your own self-guided experience, looking at that relationship is pretty critical.
I guess, could you say I've been looking at it because I've been in therapy for like 25 years?
Yes.
Is that is that part, is that
I'm sure
part of the
in therapy you've
process?
looked at like what, the painful aspects of it, what needed to get healed, what your wounds are from it, right? That are
Hmm. Of which there are
of which
many.
there
Of which there are many.
Yeah, and, to honor those, to work on what does it mean to heal them, to sometimes that involves for me, it definitely involved being in contact with my mother to share what those were and do some of it in relationship with her that at the time maybe didn't look like it went so well, but I know has at some level us naming our resentments, naming the things that did not go well and right, but then not staying in blame, right? We can't be victims to it. But we do have a right to go back and feel the feelings that we didn't and look at the coping mechanisms that we came up with to survive, I'm gonna say, at whatever level, because it feels like that as a child, even in the best circumstances, we need to do whatever we need to do to survive. So we, create personas and personalities and healthy at the time because it's what we need as kids, but then later they don't work so well. And yeah.
Yes. And so, like, would you say you went down the road of trying to conquer this, or that conquer's never probably never going to happen, but try to unravel it, because of your mom? Like, is there more to it than just your
Oh
mom, or
yeah.
just is it like the archetypal
I think that
mother Earth or
like if
whatever?
I look at myself, there was if I wanna when you first I don't know, when I first started, and I think this can be true, it's like when you first decide to go on any kind of personal growth journey, at some manner at all, looking at our past and looking at our most pivotal relationships, our mother being a significant one, our father too, depending on what the dynamic was,
Mm.
your main caregivers. I did that for me, and at that time, for my relationship with my new husband, right? Like, oh, those wiring, that it really impacts that, right? So then when it came to looking at, decisions around us deciding to have a family, it's like, oh, what decision, how are we making decisions just reactively out of like, oh, I don't want to do it like
Mhm.
my mom? Like, so much of what Rewrite the Mother Code is just raising awareness of what the codes are, what the wiring is, so that you have more choice in how you do that. The rewriting it and like all of this came later when I looked back at my own mothering and my own mothering of my kids' experience. So,
And I guess, like the mother code, or is it something that we're taking it back to, or is it like trying to unravel like the patriarchy
yes.
and the systematic ways in which we can all kind of be like, even the most well-meaning of us, I consider myself this, dyed in the wool feminist. Like, I'm the one who's gonna be like, "That's not funny." Like, I'm always, I'm willing to point out where a man fucked up
Yeah,
everything all the
exactly.
time. Like, I have no problem with that. Um, but I do find myself doing, like, very stereotypical, like, I'm the one that folds the laundry, and John, or I shouldn't name him, but he is my husband, John, we all know who he is. Like, it's like whenever he tries to fold laundry, he's like, "Ugh." It's like he's just jamming it all together, and it's like, and I'm always like, "Oh, he's just not good at it." And then I'm like, "Wait a minute. It is shaking a shirt, and it is folding it 4 times. How that's not a that's learned helplessness is what
Yeah.
that is, but it doesn't but it
Well, it's so that's kind of more of a matter of, do you care, right? Yes, that we fall into certain roles, like, that might be looked at more as the, feminine mother role to tend to those things. My husband is a way better folder than I am, and
Mhm.
we have someone help us with laundry, and he refolds it, right, for himself,
Wow.
because it's
Yeah.
not that's more of a, like,
Done
type
right.
A, like, it's gotta be perfect, so I'm just saying that because so much of sometimes what comes up is, once when we look at our beliefs, what our culture, the we're in a patriarchal, out of balance,
Mhm.
paradigm right now. So we are fighting against that. But what is it and where does it show up? And where am I not having the possible experience I could have if I wasn't following it? And
What
that makes
one
sense.
thing I mean, that I was thinking about the other day is, like, I was thinking about, like, how there's certain sects of, like, Christianity or whatever that women should not, they be at the home, and they should follow their husband, and that's just, like, from a genetic, like, that's just what women are, and it was, like, the same kind of, like, yeah, and I hope I don't get dogged for saying this, but it's kinda like the same thing that was around slavery. It's like, they like being slaves, like, it's like, but when given the potential to do more, it's like, oh, all of a sudden women can be doctors and people of color can do anything, and it's like, I feel like if I was meant to be a man's subservient thing, I wouldn't have the desire or the ability to be strong, to do the manly, like, own businesses or put a nail in the wall, things that are typically, like, masculine behaviors.
Yes.
It's not really a question, just a thing I was
I
thinking
think it's a
about was
great
just
thing to be
if we are
thinking about, and I love just the thought that just that you're thinking about that, right? Because I personally don't believe that our sole purpose is to give birth and, raise children. Like, that's why we're the ultimate reason why we're on this planet is
Mhm,
to do that and, take care of those kids and take care of the man, right? Like that 100% doesn't feel right, but it doesn't mean that we can't value that and enjoy. Me, it's that
mhm.
it's undervalued, right? So there's 2 things. There's,
Yes.
well, that's your purpose and don't expect you shouldn't even think about doing anything else and you're not capable. Like, "Oh, guess what? We are," like,
Mhm,
and and I think we would just die once we're not childbearing anymore if we didn't have a larger purpose, and that raising children isn't our end all. Like, doesn't make us a woman, it doesn't make us a person, it isn't our sole reason for being on this earth.
well, and it's, the problem it's like, I feel like the world is set up for, at least in America, I can't really speak for other countries, but, like, the way that a lot of, especially once you have kids, it's set up to support a system where there's a man at work and a wife at
Mhm.
home who's dealing with everything. And it's like, even the fact that school starts at 9 and ends at 3. It's like my husband's been at work for 2 hours by the time my kid starts school and doesn't get out for another couple of hours. Like, who's picking that kid up? Who's dropping that kid
Mhm.
off? And it's like, or if there's, like, a half day for no reason, which seems to happen all the time. It's like, I have to just, and the supposi I mean, in our situation, it's like I'm the one who's gonna take care of it for the
Yeah.
most part because I work for myself, so I've got the flexibility. And that's not to say my husband does a lot. I mean, I feel like I'm in a more one of the better of the, you know, weighted of the labor in the household, but the world is not set up to help the woman who is trying to not just have that one path. And it's like I'm on a lot of, like, mom groups on Facebook or on Reddit or whatever, and there's always moms who are like, like, "Am I," there's a subreddit called "Am I the Asshole?" where people will write in and be like, "This happened to me," like, they're telling me I'm the wrong person, like, am I the wrong person? Like, people will be like, "You're a total asshole," or they'll be like, "You're not the asshole." And a lot of them are like, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I've got 4 kids and my husband comes home from work and just, like, sits down and I have to do everything and I'm becoming really resentful and I don't know why. And
It's heartbreaking.
it's it
Heartbreaking
really
that
is.
she's questioning that she shouldn't have feelings about that, right? Like that, am I an asshole for feeling resentful? Like 100% no, and
Mhm.
we're not taught
And
like
it
the skills to we don't have the belief that like, oh, we're a system, we're a family, and we're all going to figure out like our best use and a way that this works for everybody, right? And that we all
well,
can
yeah.
get nourished, and it's not my job to put myself last, put you all first, and take the dregs and be the one eating crumbs. That doesn't work.
Mhm.
It doesn't
And
help. It
there's
doesn't work.
well, it works for a little bit, but when it stops working and they don't understand the agency that they could potentially have, it just leaks out in these shitty ways. It either, it's like your kid is getting ignored
You're
or,
passive aggressive
you
to
become an
your
alcoholic.
partner,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, or you're dealing with
Yeah.
it,
And
not by not taking care of yourself and
mhm. Well, and it's like I think the concept is like, "Oh, well, I go to work and your job is you get to be home." And so then, when you're home, you're never off the job. You're always on the clock. And it never ends. Oh my god, I would murder my life if that was what it was, and I know I feel for those who are in those situations because, it's like when you were saying when you were getting married, and you wanted are we just mindlessly doing what, society has told us we have to do? Or are we making decisions based on, like, what we actually want and need out of
Well,
life?
and, taking a moment to look at, like, when so it was my boss at the time who recommended when I got engaged, like, "Hey, what" you know, I well, actually, he said it not so nicely. "I really recommend that you get premarital coaching or like, it was therapy at the time, and, this was 1989, and, it was like, "What?" "What are you talking about? Like, why would you do that? Like, I just met, like, this amazing guy, and we're getting married, and it's gonna be great." Right? But there was
Mhm,
I'm just so grateful that I don't know, something clicked where I was like, well, if I think about this from the standpoint of, uh, if our parents, his parents, my parents were our teachers and they were the model for relationship, oh, guess what? Like there's alcoholism, there's divorce, there's infidelity, there's, living separate lives,
mhm.
maybe I don't want that, and I'd like a relationship even just that lasts, I didn't even know how much, like, to yearn for tons of depth and intimacy. It was just like, how do you not have these awful things happen? Maybe talking to somebody about that and being a little more thoughtful about it would be useful, right? And,
Yeah, my therapist also recommended that, and initially was like, "I like to do that because I'm sure they're gonna come up with questions I haven't thought about, but is my husband gonna or my fiancé want to?" And I'm like, "Hey, John, my therapist said we should do." He's like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "Wow, that was an easy." And when we got in there, he just wouldn't stop talking. I'm like, "I think maybe you need a therapist." But they're asking things like, "You both lost your job and you're broke. How would you feel?" I mean, like, it was like asking questions that I hadn't thought about what would
yeah.
happen if, you know, we got kicked out of our house, which all of us are just a couple bad decisions away from being homeless, which is not something I didn't really realized until, recently. But I think it's good to go through
Yeah,
couples
and, like,
therapy before
oh,
you
there's
get
such a
married.
thing as vision and setting goals and, looking mine not looking, discerningly at, like, well, what did work in our parents' relate like because we early on in this, process, we went to a seminar called Your Parents' Marriage or Yours, where isn't that great? Like, and
Yikes.
I've since
Uh-huh.
taught, I love that because I love us looking at genograms where look and visually can see patterns, that are passed down and to know that I can interrupt those and I can make different decisions that end the dysfunctional or the traumatic, generational issues is really pretty powerful, right? That we're not, but
Mhm.
until we realize that we're in that sea, that we're fish, swimming in that, we're either going to act reactively like, "Oh, that was terrible that my parents did, so I'm gonna not do that," or I'm just gonna do the same thing and either think I'm doing it differently or just not be aw "Oh, look
Mhm.
at here we are, oh my gosh, look at my husband's having an affair. Wow, how'd that happen?" You know?
Mhm. And then if you were to really look back on it, it's like, "Oh, I watched my parents go through this," or whatever, like, as you get older and you're the way the patterns just
Yeah.
re go on, it is especially when you get older, and you're kind of I'm, like, the age when I started realizing what my mom like, I was let's see, when my mom was 48, I guess I was, like, 14, so I guess I really knew who she was when she was
Yeah.
48, and it's like I am doing so many things that she used to do that I didn't
Like
used to
what?
do, like getting my nails done, like, from a very
Yeah.
basic level, like, I never got my nails done, and then now all of
Ooh,
a
I wanna
sudden,
get
I'm
my
like,
nails
fake
done.
nails. I'm like, "What is this? What is this?" And, or like, I don't ever put on makeup if I don't have to, and I'm always I kind of have become this sort of I'm like, "Do I am I the middle-aged lumpy lady that I always said I'd never be? And do I care if I
Well, that's
am?"
big
Like, that's
that's the bigger thing, right? Like, because when we're just have that extra level of consciousness, we're choosing it, right? And we're not pretending that we're not choosing it. It's like understanding where we came from, identifying patterns so that we have more choice, right? Raise awareness so we have more choice, we have more requisite variety of options than just being reactive to either our family culture or the culture around us or swimming in the sea and unconsciously, like, doing what everybody else is doing and wondering why we don't feel good.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, and so I guess how did you get into the rewriting the mother code? Like, how did you decide, how did you uncover the mother code?
Yeah, well, somewhat of what I mentioned in this process, I went I became a life coach, I was in this arena, I was coaching and supporting other moms and parents and, I was very much in this field, right? So as I was raising our daughters. And there were aspects of it at the beginning where I was like, wow, I'm like really, I had this experience of what it's like to more mindfully, with more consciousness, more self awareness, make choices about how we conceived, about how we gave birth, and there. And then, early in new motherhood was challenging to say the least, and some of those choices, and my kind of fervor for rocking the boat, both in my relationship. I think some things got really real and I kind of went into that, wow, I got to protect these kids and I don't want to like rock the boat anymore. And so I started becoming kind of a little more typical for our culture, like lose myself and my children. We were parenting consciously, but I stopped pretty much put a halt to my own growth and development in it, right? Like, put myself aside, like, quote, unquote, "for the benefit of my children," but, like, I was just too scared to go there,
Mhm.
you know? So when I realized later, like, gosh, um, I really did lose myself. I would like and I had a lot of support around me. I was in a growth environment. I was working at a personal growth organization, and this was still hard for me. It was still it was hard to stay in that kind of arena. But I some women did, and some of the women I was coaching did, and some of the women I saw around me, and I really saw some beautiful things happening with them as they grew and challenged themselves with their children. So I'm like, what happened to me?" And kind of out of that regret and remorse of my own stuff, and I'm like, I want to study this. I want to like understand this more. I want to, take what happened to me and at least shine the light on this possibility to the extent I knew it from the experience I had, and then the women that I coached, and make this is a conversation that needs to be more out in the world, right? That there's kind of going back to the, is it just our purpose here to like like pop these kids out? No, I think there's this huge opportunity, for ourself and our own manifestation, our own, expansion in this whole arena of raising children, giving birth, raising children that goes way beyond the mechanics of it, way beyond that, like the limited patriarchal way that we're going about it.
Mhm.
So that's what got me like doing my master's and then doing a doctorate in it. Um, and so when I did that and then I came out, it was like, "Oh, what is this? And what do I want women to know?" And so I worked with an agency actually that where we came up with the name, like, first it was like the mother code, right? Like, there's this code. But then it was like, well, I don't want it to sound like now I have the code. It's no, we need to rewrite the code that whatever the current code is and whatever your personal code is, like, how do I help women identify it so that we can have this more expansive experience, that we can expand the definition of motherhood to be more inclusive, that all women mother, that we mother our our businesses, our dreams, our relationships, and children, and the most important person we need to mother is ourselves for the benefit of ourselves, but for the benefit, and and then it got bigger for me, the world needs more mother. We need this creative, nurturing, creative destroyer, like, feminine value aspect in the world, but even if a woman just wants to do it for herself and have a better mothering experience, I'm okay with that.
I mean, on the flip side of all of that, like, is there a father code?
There is, but that's the patriarchy, right?
So then you're saying that the mother code then is sort of not like
The
like the
code is
thing
yes,
we've been.
it's that, like, weight we've been under, right? It's the wiring that isn't working for us. It's the restrictive, limited, birth as a business, parenting as a as a and I'm saying this not so much man woman as I am masculine, feminine, like,
Mhm.
out of balance way that we're living. So, yes, I mean, there are certainly like, the father code is more like it's not okay to have emotions. Like, they certainly have,
Yeah.
there are ways that aren't supporting them to have the full, father manhood experience that they could have,
Mhm.
and
I mean, what I kind of come to realize is the patriarchy helps
yeah,
no one. Nobody does well in the patriarchy. Like, yeah, men may get to have more, like, assumed, control or power or, agency, but what comes with that is then, fear, and if they lose that thing, what do they even mean? And, the ego
yeah,
of it all is just so
it is.
hard
There
to
was oh my
beat.
gosh, now I'm blanking on her name, but the book, Mother Peace, I thought she did a great job talking about the patriarch, and she's like, patriarchs aren't happy. They're not happy people because even if they've just, like, dominated a new kingdom, so to speak, they're only worrying about how to protect it and who's gonna and
And
keep
keep
it.
it.
So how can you ever be at peace or happy, with under that kind of and it doesn't mean like that we should then be all matriarchal either. To me, it's about like the balance and valuing both equally and, one and the other supporting the other. I
Well, and valuing women, like, it's like the not wanting to have kids,
yeah.
or if you don't like, women who don't have kids are so threatening to men, and I don't understand why exactly. And it's like then or if you do have kids, once you've done having the kids and you cross the Rubicon into 40, it's like you might as well be
Mm,
invisible. And it feels like I feel more in my power now than I
yeah.
ever have, and I feel like that's the same for all of my friends, like, it's all like, like, we don't give a fuck anymore, and and I'm sure I hope and then from what I hear, that only continues to
Yeah.
get better, and it's like it's interesting that from an evolutionary standpoint that the second we stop having kids, we become more
I
ourselves.
know. Isn't that interesting? Like I'm just reading a book, Eve. Like I don't know if you've heard of that. It's 200 million years of the evolution of women. And I just opened it, but I'm she's tackling the like why what is men why have women why do we still live? Kind of thing. And it's way beyond the like oh, to help the mothers, and be a grandma because it is a hard job, and she does kinda say, like, there's some good reasoning there, but there's more to it than that.
Wait, reasoning for
Why
what?
women live longer than childbearing,
Oh.
you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
good yes, because there's a lot of animals that, like, the
We're, like,
woman dies, like,
we're
after she stops
about
being a.
the only like, there are maybe I think orca whale I don't know, I think there's a whale species that lives beyond their childbearing. We're, like, the only ones that do that, and, I know, right? So these are like cool questions, but of course we haven't been studying them because we only studied like the male side of everything for so long.
Mhm.
So
I have my degrees in art history, which I feel like I talk about a lot, like in a it's not like I do anything with it, but, I think I found myself thinking not too long ago about, like, all of the pieces of art that are, like, canon, that we all know about, and, so much of the art that was, that we see as canon was stuff that was, like, that was, the Vatican
mm,
commissioned or the Caravaggio's, the Medicis were giving
sure.
him money to, like, be able to make stuff, so then they only make these biblical they only paint biblical things because that's, like, the only book anybody had, and I wonder, like, some of it just doesn't I mean, it's fine, and it's, like, the best that could have been made at that time, because of, like, the materials that they had or whatever, and I just wondered to myself, like, "God, if women were allowed to make art, what would it have like, if like, they just weren't allowed to, or if they were, it was in secret, and then the man just go, 'Oh, that's a really good painting,' paint over
Or
it."
no, they'd put it
Like
in their name.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, yes, there's also that. There's also that. And so, it's like, I think about, like, all of these masters, even some of the writing, because I like, some of the poems and the books and the things, I mean, obviously the best stuff rose to the top, but a lot of the stuff that rises to the top is not necessarily the best, it's just who had better friends in higher
Yeah.
places.
Well, if you think about it, it was so much of it because of what you're saying, it's making me, think about the fact that it was, that was patriarchal PR, right? Like it was all painted through that image, right? And patriarchal slash like, I mean, if you want to bring in like, because when you were bringing up, the Medicis and at that time, it's like Jesus.
And she wasn't
No, she was,
a
Palestinian,
Palestinian. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly, Jewish woman, and looked nothing like that, that it would've if a woman was doing it, it would be real, right? It would be what it really if we weren't
yeah.
trying to, like,
Well, and
use it for some power play or use it, like, in our own ego image, like, let's make these godly people of the Bible, like, look like us, and that's what they would do, right?
mhm. And it makes sense to a certain extent. Like, if you lived in Italy and you lived in Italy your whole life and you never left Italy and you only knew Italians, you're gonna paint people that are gonna look like you because that's all
Mhm.
you know. But I will tell you, I'm embarrassed to say that it didn't even occur to me that Jesus as a person wasn't white until I went to
Oh, I don't
college.
think it occurred to me till after college. Till I started thinking a little and I went to Catholic colleges.
Mhm. Oh, me too, I went to DePaul. And it's like and I remember seeing, like, pictures of Black Jesus, like, they would like, it's like black churches would have pictures of Black Jesus, and I'd be like, "That's weird." Like, Jesus was black, Like, so it's like white supremacy, a little bit of racism, like, being raised in Nebraska has its, lack of, any diversity, so
I'll tell you, just to name this because as we're talking about this and, I recently read a book called The Madonna Secret by Sophie Strand, and, I have to say like, as a woman and just from my intuitive, like, depths, like, "Oh, this is probably how it went down," right?
what was it? What was it?
Well, I don't wanna give it
No.
away, but she gives the story of Mary Magdalene and Jesus' relationship, which is documented, right?
Mhm.
That they were a couple, not him as a savior of her as this whore that
Whore.
like, that was all patriarchal propaganda.
Mhm.
But just what their relationship was like, what he had a mother Mary and brothers and sisters, like just that these were real people, but they were healers, right? And how she as the woman got completely wiped out of the picture and demoted to whore, right? And so you see like,
Wait a
yes, how
minute.
some of the
So Mary Magdalene was in a relationship with Jesus,
yeah.
and she was basically I don't think I knew this, and so she was turned into a whore because she had a relationship with Jesus, basically.
Well, and she
Not
was a healer and she was doing all the same things that Jesus was.
mhm,
Um, but that was witchcraft. That
mhm,
was you were possessed as a woman at that time if you showed any signs of that. But a man, he's a miraculous healer. And
uh-huh.
it wasn't like in this putting down way, it's like the way she is able to like imagine and it's historical fiction, right? Like, it's not like she just made it up out of like, "Here's what I think happened." Like, this is looking at records also,
Mhm.
you know, and what potentially could have gone down that's still very mystical and beautiful and whatnot, and, I always try and get people to read it so we could talk about it because there's just certain things like
It
you
sounds
don't wanna
very
give.
juicy.
It's very juicy. It's a big, thick book, and I can be a slow reader, but it's one of those, like, I couldn't put down for, like I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh," and she's just a very good writer too, but anyway, it's bringing up that point, like, you know, how something can get so wired in, like, this is even if it doesn't sit right with us or feel right or like, "Oh, why is it all guys? Like,
Mm,
why is it only the men that are important in this story?" And the women are just whores and just
mhm.
how
Or
ver
not even there, not
or
even
not
part of
even
it.
there. Yeah, not even there, and,
So I guess as a Christian woman, it can be very easy to, like, write yourself out of the story because all I've ever seen is just men in power, and, if a woman tries to be even a little bit mouthy, she becomes a whore or she's drowned as a witch.
yeah,
And is that the reason why they made, Jesus's birth virgin so that, the sex that
but,
we all find so disgusting wasn't a part of his creation?
I always, like, wanna be able to say this reference better, but, the original, the original meaning of virgin isn't, like, pure, chaste, like, not been touched by man, it's actually very powerful, like, agency of a woman. Um,
Mm,
and, virgin is like, I stand on my own, and I am a unique, like, powerful, kick-ass being, and, I have choice. Like, that's
mhm,
actually more what virgin means than, like, "Oh, I haven't had sex with someone,"
mhm. It's
kinda
like
thing.
I'm untouched and everything about me is me. Like,
Yes.
I don't have the influence of something like, someone's penis hasn't turned me into something else yet, which
Oh,
is what penises
yes.
are they're very powerful that way. Penises can turn you from one thing to another within, seconds. That's really interesting. You know what I learned recently, and I wish I knew the word, maybe you'll know because I feel like it probably was mentioned in one of your books that you've been talking about, but, there is a word that I don't wanna like, I think it's like it's not Jezebel, but it's like one of those words was the name of
Mm,
there was a second woman in Eden, according to this thing, and, like, Eve was the one who was willing to do it with Adam, and the other one was like, "I don't need men," and so she got cast out. God, what was her name? But I didn't
I
even
don't know
know
this
that I
I
it
don't
was,
know this one either, but now I'm gonna find out, because I
um,
love these
these little ways in which these words have kind of
history has been rewritten over and over, and only, the current culture, what they want you to see is what you see and what we then think and believe, right? And even I'm not saying like hers was the true, but just to get us thinking like there's more than one possibility here.
mhm,
No one was there, right? No
mm,
one was, and we're gonna turn this into the influence that we want it to be, for in a patriarchal culture for my best interest, and
well,
what
and
serves.
if we're gonna use the concept, I can't believe how much we're talking about the Bible, but the concept
I know.
of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and then, like, they were the same, like, they were both healers. It's like, I think about how many times I get compliments, and I'm like, "Shut up. No, you come on, I'm not that cool." Blah, 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 blah. Like, we're all so willing to, like, either A, downplay our successes or not even see the things we're doing as cool or important or worthwhile because we just do them. We're just doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not looking for somebody to throw me a parade because I don't know, did something cool, I'm just gonna do it, and so it's like Mary Magdalene's out there just healing people and healing them, but, like, Jesus is getting all of the PR about it, and he's like, "Yay, look at me, I'm a healer, I'm turning water to wine," and Mary Magdalene's over here is like, "I turned it into a full bar," but you don't see me, like, trying to, get people to include me in history in a positive light.
No, and it is really interesting how she works with that, in the book, like where she tries to temper his ego to a certain extent, or where he gets pulled, kind of into that. Because I think even in the current version, our known version of the Bible, like I believe like Jesus is kind of more of a better balance of masculine, feminine,
Mhm.
his who he is to an extent. But I like that she shows like where like yeah, like, I'm gonna, like there were times like, "No, you shouldn't raise Lazarus from the dead, like, that just don't, like, stop." Like,
Really?
yeah, um, and she's like, "That I just feel it in the core of my body that, like, that shouldn't happen, like, don't do it." And he's like but for his own not, like, even so much from this account, right? Like, I just wanna show that I can. It's like he thought he was doing something that would help her and the family, and it's like, "No, I'm gonna do it." And
But, I
y
mean, he didn't really do that, though. I mean, if you really I mean, he probably didn't raise a person from the dead.
well, we
There's
don't know, right?
probably a pretty good reason probably a pretty good explanation for I mean, sure, yeah. I mean,
But if we wanna, like, go there and, like, these kinda
yeah.
miracles can happen, I like that she, is saying, like, the different perspectives and come froms on, like, having that happen.
Is this Bible that you're speaking of is it like the King James version, or are there, like, newer versions of the Bible than that?
Which, the
Well,
Madonna
there's, like
Secret book I'm
no,
talking about?
no, you said the way the Bible is written now is
Well, I
more
just think, like, when you hear of Jesus and there's enough that's just in any, like, Bible version of, like, his love of children, he wanted
mm,
peace,
okay.
you know what I mean? Like, he was a pacifist, like, he wasn't like, "Let's not raise arms,
Mhm.
to the Romans. Let's let's, love thy neighbor," kinda
Yeah,
thing, right? Like, let's be he
yeah.
had more of that than it was like, "Hey, I wanna" he didn't wanna start a church, he just from that was never didn't look like to me he was on in the road to that, that happened through Paul, right? So and
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
an expert, but, whatsoever. These
Yeah,
are
this has
just
gone we've gone to a really weird place. Let's get out of the Bible. Anyway, so
but we'll circle it back to, like, all the ways we're wired. So if you're in a Christian framework, like, you have that, like, in
Mhm,
you, whether you like it or not, right? In Judaism, you have, the Torah, you have the Quran, you have your books, your influences, your cultures that so to me, it's just about being okay to, like, ask questions about it and really go on a path to, like, see what feels right to you. What are other possible scenarios?
well, and I guess the thing is that when I start thinking about these things and talking about it and feeling it, I'm like, "God, we just need to change it. We gotta something has to change. We gotta figure out how." And it's like, "How?" Especially when you,
Mm,
like, look at, like, how I mean, I guess you and I, it's like be the change you wanna see in the world, like,
yeah,
try to do good things and it'll go out into the world and hopefully it'll, but that's like, when I think about a world where Donald Trump is still gonna be the Republican nominee without even really doing anything to do it, to deserve it, and in fact, he's quite doing a lot of things to not, like, how do we get out of this? Like,
mm,
it feels very gross, at least in America right now, that and it seems like there's also these, like, it just doesn't feel like we're heading towards more parity, I guess, is the I mean, and we are because there's more people that are feeling that way, but I feel like it's still there's so many of the bigger things that kinda control our world that are, like, dominated by men, and women have kinda gotten there a little bit, but, like, they're usually seen as, like, rabble-rousers and, you know, not serious players
yeah.
in the power structures.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in some ways it's like women have so much more choice and autonomy than we did 100 years ago, or 200, like in
Mhm,
recent history. And at the same time, it's like, unraveling like 6,000 years of this is probably going to take a while
mhm,
if we don't destroy ourselves in the meantime,
yeah.
you know? And I obviously don't have an answer to that. I just kind of go back to like, okay, I can start with me. I can, you're, and what has meaning to you and the work you're doing, is I just choose to believe it makes a difference. Right. And there'll be enough of us along the way that can, or it's going to take us starting over. And hopefully, women will be the ones that they'll
Have more
have.
agency or they understand the value that we're bringing to the situation. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think we would be in this war situation with anybody if there were more women in charge. Like, my instinct is never to beat anybody up.
No.
Like, or start a proxy war with another country. Like, I don't know, I just feel like our time here is so short, and we really don't know what's gonna happen afterwards. Like,
No.
I mean, can't we just chill? Like, there's nature and beauty out there, and I get access to it so little.
Mhm.
Part of it is because where I live. There's not a whole lot of beauty in the Chicagoland area. I mean, it's, like, nice, but it's not like waterfalls. So, you wrote the book, and then you have like, what do
Well, I
you
haven't written a
do?
book yet. I'm writing a book.
Oh, you're
I did
writing a book, okay.
yes, I'm writing a dissertation is a book, but it's not a book anybody reads. Um, and I've, written articles and I've written a couple chapters that are coming out this year in some anthologies, but, I'm writing a mainstream book on Rewrite the Mother Code that, it's my own labor of love. It's like a third child, and I'm doing it, for my own transformational experience opportunity in the hopes that it speaks to, brings some of these issues that we're talking to light in a way that makes sense to some people, and they do it a little bit differently, and we keep, moving that needle to be, women who decide to make choices that feel right to them, bring feminine values into their mothering, their relationships, their careers, their worlds, and I really do like to hold hope that we'll get there,
So
but
if
that's why I kinda came up with this, like, the world needs more mother, right? We need, destroy the things, like, that aren't working in order to create, like, this cycle of life, right? Birth
mhm.
and death. It's a beautiful thing, we can't gonna live forever, and, there's cycles to our lives, there's cycles to, the planet, and I hope this cycle of the patriarchy dominating isn't our legacy forever.
What so if I wanted to hire you for the rewiring of the mother code, are
Mhm.
there, like, 3 things that someone could do, like, baby steps to kinda start trying to unravel this if they haven't seen the Barbie movie yet, they've got no idea what feminism
Well, seeing
is.
the Barbie movie would be a start, right? Like,
That should be
I don't
required watching for everyone.
it should, it
It really
should.
should.
I 100% agree because that, like, so it's I mean, usually people, that find me or come to me, they've started to ask the question, like, like, it could be anything from, like, I like a lot of the things the way my life is, but I know that there's more, right? Or I don't feel
Mhm.
like I'm fully living my life fully as the woman that I am. Okay, so, or specifically it's about mothering or motherhood, and they see, the women around them, like, looking tired, exhausted, not enjoying, like, why would I sign up for that, kind of thing. Um, so the first thing, this is gonna sound bigger than just like a simple step, but it's really understanding that you can create a vision for yourself for how you want it to be, right? That I always have women start with, like, what's their vision for themselves? Like, what are the values, the qualities, the, like, way of being, that matter to you that you want to then set goals around to achieve, right? So that's kind of a bigger, broader one. Emotional
Mhm.
intelligence always comes in pretty significantly, and when I work with people, is being able to understand, name, realize that we're emotional beings that think, and it's also a feminine value. But and most of us have. It was a language we were fluid in that a lot of us need to get reacquainted with so that we can make higher level decisions, so that we can, be true to ourselves and, make choices and decisions that
Or even, like, trust that what you're thinking is accurate and that it's valuable and is real. I always think whenever I'm watching awards shows, no one ever thinks their dad. They always think their mom, but they
Mm,
never think their dads. And I always think that's interesting. Like,
yeah.
like, is it because your dad didn't foster this in you or didn't believe in you? I don't know. That's just an interesting thing to kind of realize. And it's like, that's because your mom had good thoughts and right thoughts and knew who you were,
Yeah.
from a very young age. But anyway, go on. Sorry. So that's number
No,
two
not
is
at all.
emotional.
You're right on, right, like the emotional intelligence aspect, and then, and, from there, usually, like, and this is where it's always hard, like, it's not like, a linear step
Mhm.
because usually, like, what once you've started doing that, like, things start to emerge around what are, beliefs that I have that I can't have this vision that I just came up with, this ideal state. Like, it's not possible because blah, blah, blah. I'm not good enough. I don't know how. Um,
Money, time, my kids.
Money, time, exactly. So then, you know, there's some generalities, but it is starting to name, like, what are the blocks or barriers in the way of having it how you want it or what you think is possible, and to start unpacking those. And, there you can get as be as any level of awareness is gonna take you in some new direction, but the deeper you go with them and the deeper you let yourself, like, go into that unconscious territory and, have those, feelings that you didn't even know were there, and they might be memories, they might be feelings, that are driving and dictating, you know, how you operate, and you don't even know it, the more potential there is for you to make choices that are more in line with that vision, more satisfying, more fulfilling, more like, "Oh, okay," and, really learning to value and mother yourself. But and that's in the so within the coaching, like, really helping people tune into themselves, what does that mean? What does that look like? That I like people to get to a point where they feel like the world is there in a supportive way,
Mhm.
that messages are coming to us, that, we're being guided and supported in so many ways if we open ourselves up to it, and, that's kinda next level with it. But that's a lot of what I do on my retreats
Are the
is
people that you see, do they I mean, I would imagine that so for some of these people, especially if they're coming in like, "I'm a deer in headlights. I don't know why I feel this way, and I feel like for some reason, I feel like you're the one who can explain it to me," and then you start unraveling all this stuff, and then they realize, the patriarchy, their husband's been, verbally abusing them. Like, are you able to? Because I imagine that probably causes some disruption in their lives.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I always like, the first thing I always do is congratulate, like, cheer anyone on who decides to, like, you know, come in and explore this, because I think the only thing that ever keeps us from doing it is that we know that it could disrupt things. We know that, you know, some I mean, sometimes we think like really worse, way worse cases than it really is, but there will be some disruption. There'll be pain involved. There'll be mess, right? And
Mhm.
we tend to be, wired in our culture to avoid that, right?
Mhm.
Like, well, there should be 10 easy steps, right? Like,
Yeah.
isn't there a pill for this? Like, I isn't there there's gotta be a way around this. I've been recently, like, writing about, like, the mountain of pain, right? Like, we all have our mountain of pain, and rather than like, "Ooh, what's the way around it, or can I, like, helicopter over it?" No, like, the beautiful part.
The only way through is through, or what's the
Yeah, that
you
something like that,
yeah,
like,
I
yeah,
can't
the only way is through it, right? And climbing it, engaging with it, digging into it, and, seeing that as a beautiful process, not something to just, like, get through so I can, like, have that thing I want, but, like, it's the it of life, right? Like,
mhm.
there's
Like, you
something.
have you read that book, The Obstacle is the Way?
No, it sounds good though.
It's a good one. I mean, it's just about, like, if you don't have the bad things, then you wouldn't be who you are, and, you know, you it's I mean, it's like the journey is the destination, kinda stuff, but
What
I think we all need to be reminded of that because I think we spend so much time trying to avoid uncomfortable things,
I know.
and I'm just as bad as the next person, and I hate that, and I wish I was better at confrontation, but there's a part of me that's like, I'm glad I'm not good at confrontation because, like, I don't wanna be, like, perpetually getting in fights with people, but I actually just recently had to have a hard conversation with somebody,
Ugh,
and I agonized about it for I mean, if I'm being realistic, about a months, maybe a year,
yeah.
and it's like once I finally had the conversation, everything was better on both sides,
Mm,
and it's like, why do we why are we so afraid of confrontation when almost every time you have it, there's goodness that comes out of it? I mean, I suppose it's like the message, like how you're the medium is the message is whatever, medium is the message, is that what it is? Like, how you say it is obviously if I bring a
right.
gun and I'm like, "Behave," they're not gonna do it, but if you come at it with, you know, niceness and humility, it can actually be wonderful, and you can have a weight lifted off of you, and I don't know.
Absolutely. I know,
Why do
and I
we
think
operate in our
there's
lead in
Well, there are actually reasons, like why that's so hard, or the confrontation. I mean, that's evolutionarily wired in us to fear being kicked out of the group, to fear being,
Mm,
abandoned. There's a part of our brain that's like wired that way, like get along, right? Like you know, don't
mhm,
disrupt because you're out of the tribe and you're dead, right? So
mhm. God, that's
that
interesting. I've
still,
never thought about it that way.
still kind of lives in us, right? Like, well, that's where fear came from, more from the like run from the saber-toothed tiger, right?
Mhm,
And um that and this one's more then that next level of our brain that got developed is the relationship aspect. And when we started, living in groups and tribes, it's like your security was being part of that,
mhm.
right? So we developed the emotion of hurt and sadness to signal us when we were
When
going
someone
astray.
was yeah. Oh, that's cool.
I know. I thought it was when I read that one too. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Don't you love it when you like see something like, oh, it isn't this like, why do we do that? Why are we? Well, there's a reason, but it doesn't mean we can't then practice. It's just harder. We just have to realize like it's going to take more effort, and that it took a year. Like it took a year because you really were like navigating. Like, well, how do I? And that's why if I were coaching someone in that, it's like, well, what are the worst case scenarios? Like how what if and practicing those kind of conversations so that we can feel like we stay as present in the conversation as we can.
Yeah. We're almost at an hour. This is
Yeah.
insane. I um,
We've just
so
started. We barely
I
scrapped this.
know, I know. I feel like this is not the last time we're gonna talk.
I hope not.
So wait, what are you said you've got something coming up in March. What's
I
the thing?
do. Yes, if you don't mind, I'll just take a second, but
No, plug away.
I love coaching. I love podcasts like, like you, and speaking and all that stuff. And oh my God, writing, that's a new endeavor. Talk about out of my comfort zone,
Mm,
right? It's like such a stretch. But I've been leading retreats, well, for a long time, but like really on my own for the last like couple years. So I lead a retreat in Mexico 2 times a year. The one coming up in March is the spring equinox self-mothering retreat. So as far as what we were talking about today, like this is giving ourselves, like women have a really hard time giving themselves time just for them, right? That doesn't have something to do with their children or their job directly, right? Like I think it still does, but in a different kind of way, where we can practice some of those muscles of, and here I'm in Mexico, so we're using nature, we're using, the environment, we're using everything from the food to a sweat lodge to, some beautiful things, like ancient sites. There's an ancient pyramid nearby. But what is it like when we go to those and just open ourselves to ourselves and listening and the seasons, the equinox, and how have other cultures used these spaces and this time for themselves so that we can really practice mothering ourselves, but in a small group of women. I keep it to around 10 women because that's how many fit around my dining room table.
mhm.
uh, and I want it to feel like this intimate space, and so that's coming up March 17th to the 22nd, so it's over the spring equinox. It's in Zihuatanejo, Mexico.
That's where, in
Shawsh
the Shawshank
Shawshank Redemption.
Redemption. Yeah, that's
Yes!
where
Not
that's where
everybody knows that reference, but,
that's where
I do.
Andy sends, what's his butt to come meet him,
That's
and
where Andy ends up, working on his boat, like, Pacific has no memory,
it's on the
so
Pacific side, right? Is that what you said? The
the
Pacific side?
Pacific, yep,
So Chichen Itza, which is, like, another
and
pyramid that's
Maya,
in whatever,
Mayan
Mayans,
Riviera.
yeah. On the equinoxes, it, like, there's something crazy that
There's
happens
a
with
huge thing there.
yeah,
There's,
like, the
like,
sun
it
falls on it and it, like,
comes,
makes it
makes the
jiggle or
snake,
something.
it
Yeah, yeah,
makes, like,
yeah,
on the pyramid. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
not
cool.
that it's so cool. Like, that's a whole nother we need another podcast on, like,
Yeah. Are you there right
how
now?
how the No, I'm in
Mm,
Chicago. I'm
oh.
heading down to Mexico next week, actually, and I'll be there for most of the winter, and then leading up to the retreat. So,
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so on my website, you'll see a little tab that says retreats, and you can get, information
That's
about it
wonderful.
there. I know, like, it's something that, for me, offering it is, I just think it's always, really courageous for women to decide to give themselves
Mhm.
something like that. That's the kind of thing, like, men are like, "Yeah, I'll take a week, no big deal."
Mhm.
Like, women, it's like, "Wait,
Well,
how's
that's
everything
because that's the thing. It's like a man can leave because the woman's been organizing everything. So, like, if John goes out of town, Sebastian's life doesn't really change at all. I go out of town, and it requires a village to, like, you know, who's picking up who, when's this I mean, it's not that John doesn't do these things, but I
Right.
organize everything. So,
So it can get done.
yeah, so I do the women find I just feel like being, like, generous with your time and providing space for people to just talk. I mean, I feel like a lot of that has disappeared since the pandemic anyway. I feel like we've kind of
Yeah.
forgotten how to socialize and, we've forgotten like, I used to do stuff all the time, and I never do anything now, and
Well,
I'm not mad about it, and I don't know what that means. Have I become an introvert? Is that okay if I have? Like, I don't like, but
well,
whatever.
that's what you can ask, like, if you're feeling nourished, and now you're in a different season or you're doing it differently, then I don't think anything's wrong.
Mm. I don't know, I
It's
just want am I selling myself like, am I not experiencing things because I got so used to not doing anything that I'm
yeah.
not doing anything and, like, having new it's kind of like how, like, like, when a rock star becomes famous and their life is so comfortable, they have nothing to sing about anymore, and so their songs just become about, like, either being on the road or I don't know, like, I don't like, it's, you don't wanna get too comfortable that you don't have experiences that make your life interesting.
Sure, well, come to Mexico, that'll stir it up.
I mean, here's the thing, I would, however, I'm going to Panama in February, then I'm gonna be in Hawaii the last weekend. I have this, like, bougie, I'm going to a yoga retreat, which I've done
Oh, great.
3 years
Well,
in a row
good,
now, yeah,
okay, well,
so
then you're dismissed. You're
I've got
you're o yeah.
but maybe next year. Do you do these every year?
Well, I do the one in the spring is 5 days, 5.5 days, and then I do a long weekend in the fall equinox, also in Mexico, so I do it twice a year. So,
The fall one might be.
September yeah, September, March.
Anyway, well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much
Oh,
for being so generous with your
I was
time.
so looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to All Up in My Lady Business with me, Mary Nisi. We'd love for you to like, review, subscribe, follow us at All Up in My Lady Business on the gram. And if you're a female identifying person and you want to dance, you can follow. I mean, everybody can follow it, but if you want to be a part of the magic at Hot Flash Dance Party, sign up for the mailing list to find out where our next party is going to be. And if you are looking for a DJ in the Chicagoland area or anywhere else, money's the same color everywhere. Fly us out. ToastandJamDJs.com has the best. And listen to my radio show. I have a radio show on Chirp Radio at chirpradio.org. That's Mondays, every Monday from 12 until 3 p.m. CST. Today's episode is produced by Shiraz Dada. Theme song composed and performed by, you guessed it, Shiraz Dada. All right, guys. Peace out.